The Parliament as suspended a friend said the Speaker of Parliament was suspending a year Parliament indefinitely. A man for be kasa say you tia mo kasa mo nkonko ye adwuma mfa mo my Ghana. Adwuma bebre wo ho at this particular time esa mo kona mo kokoye. Speaker so say mo nkofie indefinitely. Don't you think it's a Parliament kwa o makwa akotena fie ebe ha wo man no adwuma yo Mpuntio our minor ebepe. Your take on a year the indefinite suspension of Speaker Ediama parliamentarians. No?
Yeah, I think it's quite unfortunate. So you been such a standoff between parliaments, you can say both majority, minority, and then the Supreme Court. This standoff way and here is not necessary. But I do a pointer. People are just flexing muscles. You understand? Yes, it's as soon be a tokwa. Grounds on a bre. And Sanyama way, of course, my cultural, my personal positions are needless. And you handle in a better way and can do her. Because first of all, Supreme Court popping the note into this particular development has proven say and for so be any so. Because I know the day, these three arms of government in America are at the same level. And so what kind of constitution give you clearly this delineation of power will be within your house and that's what kind your constitution Article 117 means our provision about me I can 117 parliamentary way no down was and as a forma actually clear mandate na yediama judiciary yediama parliament or they should be free from any external influences and as for their proceedings in the house must continue unabated. So if we get to a point where there is this external body, a parliament or popu hands into the nose of the parliamentary business within the house, not any outside the house. I think that and I could critique this whole way and Mekachiro says I wouldn't Bagbin. He's somebody when it comes to power play, and then I said for now, he's a person, he's cut for that particular thing. Or no so to me, he's that kind of person with that kind of attitude. So with the Supreme Court coming out with that particular ruling, man, I wasn't surprised such decision will come out from him because so what ye quite of us or my ruling now. Supreme Court in the ruling about he sat in the house that particular day. Who said MPP for the majority walked out of parliament on that particular day. And then Rona Emma the basis to do what he did. Or say Parliament Hayati say NDC MPs Nimkwana Waha per rules at our house. We can do business. We can transact every business BS I'm a house in Betinia Koso. But when it comes to say taking key critical decisions, Parliament standing order and the Constitution, you need a specific number of people before you can take decisions. So the all party and they say, baby, and your parliamentary business, there are key decisions to be taken. And in Nipana, you know, be taking that decision. They say, or my boycott of Parliament, or more ma. So they met me and said, then I'm suspending the House indefinitely. And that is exactly what he did. And
it is a kind article 117 and it talks about the immunity from service or processes and arrest. Now we say civil or criminal process coming from any court or place out of parliament shall not be served on or executed in relation to the speaker or a member or the clerk to parliament while he is on his way to, attending at, or returning from any proceedings of parliament.
Yes. And now, can 15, no, mame? I'm in shower there.
Oh, okay, mame. Kasa no ame 15 ma.
Yes. I may have to say, there shall be freedom of speech. There shall be freedom of speech, debate and proceedings in parliament. And that freedom shall not be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of parliament. So, Dr. Ren, Constitution, I insulated parliament as an institutional role now or performing a sacred, same way the president, same way the Chief Justice in the court. Because the president cannot go to the Supreme Court and direct Chief Justice how as or set it up in a panel and asking the ruling. The same way president in discharge of his executive decisions, he cannot be directed by any institution or court. My culture said, we now free why you can take him on. The same way Parliament so enjoy similar privileges. And the entire kind this particular way they said, Assembly baby a no. Na yinimsa akwakoda cool heads will prevail and na yakoda sorry ya said the would send them no Speaker of Parliament had directed the clerk say untrue let them fan konkoma ya fan say Chief Justice say any Judicial Council no say sermons no mo de ba ne so no unconstitutional and all cite article na media catch on say emom say obi ye parliamentarian na say onam kwan so kwa adwuma kra police nche no and now say your friend is saying yen seven because constitutional framers recognize it the sacred nature of a human and nipa no so in a personal indiscretion obi akoto obi mona even though it's a crime but a human or kwakoye no a juma or kojina ko whole constituency and na mu na kwakoye sa juma no enti wo chena nipa no mo constituency no what deny omo but oye de all ye ni we no obafia wutimi kwache no as a criminal enti the Speaker of Parliament at in the chamber no oye na adwuma we had this clause in this provision ya eba then and somebody will walk to we cry then so onam kwan so and our parliament o and yes free parliament no kofi o we the parliament ho moto chamber ho and I had sermons no ko wura ho writ no ko wura ho say Speaker of Parliament and he's challenging say a young constitutional and in the first place writ now was sermons no unregarded let alone the ruling now with the abano is the reason why until date nothing has been said about the ruling at the floor of Parliament. Obianka ho asem they say sermons no mo serve our legal directed honor is being challenged by the Speaker. At this point, I free so Adibia Kwakwa say the Parliament because MPP members at Trakoma Speaker say almost no Parliament na was suspending indefinitely no. He should call it back because there are several government businesses as a transacted. The question is who calls them? Because in the first place, you boycotted the place when you knew say government business has to be done. I'm a nipana aquaria. Then the following day you come back. But I like we say is the standing orders and the constitution and as for a permit or more, and it is within the law for them to make such a call on the Speaker of Parliament. It is also up to him to weigh his discretionary powers based on one or two things to make a decision as to whether he will reconvene Parliament as soon as possible or not. We are yet to know. But for the Speaker to go a step further, asama ye free sa kwakoda na afi na all instructed the lawyers and na for to write to Chief Justice in country and say na wa we yamra na da wuni mana say article 115 and article 117 e ka kire me say mete hana me di me dwuma wunni ho kwan sa wo de sermons bra me ana and I think say open the whole new chapter of this confrontation in the past few days and then one who's a trend on social media. So it's more of flexing of muscles. These arms of government, OBA, speaker, no, you catch it and they say Supreme Court no need to miss over director as to what to do in your chamber. And he said, more flex because Parliament will be seen as a weak institution. And I think that it is at the back of that conviction, and I empower the speaker to also go the way air corner. A kokokwa yana ya hombachiri and I'm free say a hunya said there are several other scholars at your madrian or more about here na here say Supreme Court by invoking of your friends saying the original jurisdiction or powers in this particular matter. Now I'm making sure say Parliament ebe duma without such your friends say coordination and as for and our circumstances are fenyo marking at the court. I'm a court not granting the S party based on certain flimsy reasons are already in his summons and retina. Clearly, a choice said this whole agenda was to pat government in the back to get its way. But then speaker and so try to prove the other way around. Said no, you can sit there, give your orders, everything. Key to Parliament, is in my pocket. I can decide whether to open it or not, especially when the majority, has given me reasons to close Parliament, So I think there's more or less, flexing of muscles. I make just a because Dr. Ren, the entire separation of powers, these key arms of government, obia betimianya a room, overriding room, even though a certain window has been created, said by this right, will not be abused, and internal check and balances, but it is not a highway. Our far car now, so you drive there to control somebody. No, each of these houses, are insulated, protected by the Constitution. OBS or Yena Juma without any external interference and as for. So I could do a point. Now the judiciary thinks that they can easily get into Parliament and other proceedings within the House. Abra provision Yamama Kanye actually say the proceedings in the House are insulated from any external influence, be it court or president, whichever directive be a cannot until such a decision is taken. And it is deemed inimical to interest and answer of other people and I'll be taking on. And we are talking about a particular principle that has been applied even few years ago. And one of the key arguments that Supreme Court to Gina Soprano, it doesn't make sense. And what's on China, say a politics no more and your judicial will be no more yet because and right now me kind sha lolobine akwafu for
Central Kofi Akpafu Lolobi any lique for no.
Exactly. One of the key arguments I know women say, yes, a Ghana for electoral commission for Yansa so a free, sa particular way num. And you need representation. Supreme Court question some national case young regularize the next 4 years, umbenya representation. And if the same Supreme Court is saying 4 constituencies, just few weeks to election, cannot be denied their fundamental human right of getting a representative in Parliament. And now we say, Lolo before that, and if these people can bear the brand for 4 good years, I think that these people cannot endure for 3 weeks. And again, Supreme Court, all your argument, emotional argument, they care, they are so endeared to the welfare of people, they need to have representative. Don't forget to say, Abra, Papa we free you jachi question issue by ana koso. Asamna yenyamu for no. Surprisingly, this same Supreme Court injuncted him in the history of this country. Says Supreme Court injuncted somebody who has been voted for. Say a man in Parliament in Kwayana Juma because na some court yenye nimye. Now but I'm saying we TV or heaven. Assembly yenye dimye you, and he wasn't at the time no pronounced guilty. But nipa kotwa ba mana omo hwese oba represent omo, he was injuncted and he sat home for 2 good years and sana finally yedin asem. And if you look at this inconsistency, now we are Supreme Court in the first place attempt will try to invoke the original jurisdiction, whether a right or your friends say unjust, people will not take you serious because the trajectory built a certain kind of inconsistency for you, and people think say you are not a judiciary doing anything. Now, you are just a terror arm. Our government to achieve whatever that they want to achieve. Because I think the Supreme Court has demonstrated clearly, say indeed, they are really working for the people. Menya sure sanka Ghana for na beji asem yafa because na me catch you. So kwa Twitter, 2 things are now trending on that day. One, MOA, 2, unanimous FC. Dr. Ren, for the highest pinnacle of judicial power to be trending in such a negative light, MOA, unanimous FC. That is the highest form of indignation. I'll bet me pour on the judiciary, the highest one. And you will be what that particular house. You should not be so much enthused with your power in the house, thinking, say, oh, men are measuring rope cocoon and say for them power no me hold them pen a no. You should be concerned about the public perception. Because I know the day and your fish and there are some cocotte. And your nipper and there are some cocotte. And for people to invoke the powers of the judiciary, One, they need to have trust. They need to know that the judiciary will be fair. So if you go to social media space and consistently, people are subjecting the judiciary to public ridicule, mortification, as if we are progressive-minded, reasonable, sensible person. You will not be concerned too much about how much power you have and the authority you have to interpret the constitution. But you'll be very much concerned about public perception because it's no or no UK or small will be so unko di asama. Asam no sa odi ni nyansa mo wani ni nyansa mo yaso kokasa ye bechi udadua. At that time no na a fear and terror and I would hunu manfo but this era ya ye womi makacho say ye huna nipa. Intina nano na mekacho say Pontius Pilate nim ko mo hyada de chene na sefo no ende oba na obedi nsebu na nipa beka na dua kire no ene era ya ye womi ye huna nipa. The only way I bet me huna nipa da say huna omo with intelligence, with reasoning, with logic, with common sense. Nipa no hu obesuro. Na say mama ruling opo mama me na power no me hode sa ne ma na ekura se ma twam. This era you can survive with such you find saying belligerent posture. Say I am not bending because me na more power. I am inflexible because I'm the one with the power. Oh yes sir, trust me. You become a joke in the eyes of the people. And into the Supreme Court of Ghana abaye a joke in the eyes of many of Ghanaians. Because as someone make say be a perception. Now no CDD for your friend is saying survey, and I'm sure say you've come across it. How much trust that Ghana for the judiciary go and read the CDD report. Now no under joy for the two or more friend is saying or more one of their your friend saying social media handle. Go there and read the comments among for Emma. Dr. Ren, opa me no kasa we have a Rainbow Radio ye polls. Na fato ho se Ghana need the level of trust award judiciary. But who is a man for about Chrawasi. So it's a worry. But my culture say, oh my already we've lost parliament. I am not speaking for parliament because I think that this parliament is one of the weakest link in our democracy. So ineffective, so impotent. And into na yadru be yadru executive issue the tepon koso wo de ne ya de be enye. So the only last hope anka Ghana ni wo the judiciary. I was expect say Ghana ni niema nko ye kura no twa no ho a anya hwe ne court de ukọ the court to be fair. Na ye beduru ba bi na public perception ne say court no ye terror arm being used by power to bulldozer their way through, to get their way through. Ebasana, it means that the institution of democracy, no, and our threatening, no, because I know the day, no, we are going into an election where people are threatening, say, yeah, they young court to because court no quite they are not fair. You should be worried as a Chief Justice. You should be very much concerned. And yes, our way is to repair this damaged reputation of the judiciary. That is the same call I've been placing on the Jemensa-led EC. Such an institution, you know, or credibility now, or thrive on public trust. It is not about how much power you have from the constitution. It is not about the guarantees because I told the idea public no sorry constitution you nipa onye so jani obasara baba ho ban o u dwane a constitution no provided a dime ma unko shem. It's just a document. But as a reasonable human being, no, you need to attach wisdom to what you do and be very much endeared to public perception. Then as a forum, I am not saying says a Supreme Court could be a sema. Omo metena social media no mo kwatena public square. No mo ko bisa Ghana for yenya den. No. But I can't say law everywhere. Law everywhere. UK, US, Canada, wherever. There are basic principles or elements upon which every law revolves around. A reasoning, a common sense, a logic. It doesn't matter where you go. Any law be edifying these three basic principles and your law. And your law. And what do you really know about until sit down, ask yourself, say, ruling here, as I mean, you follow everything to us and you invoke these basic principles. Can we find these basic principles within this invocation? Yeah. If you cannot find it, it means something is wrong. Because people who are disgracing the Supreme Court or social media, no, they are not judges, so they are not lawyers. So, but there is one thing they have. understanding this basic principle of reasoning, logic, common sense. Anything a teacher need can really know say this basic common sense. You know, any media person can, because there are basic things that you don't need to go to law school to know. And you consistently, for instance, a Supreme Court ruling about say or birth certificate, you know, cannot guarantee so we are Ghana need just a passport, which is just a traveling document. To acquire the passport, the only thing you need is a birth certificate.
And you Hossein mebemo, and I know say offer the Afro Barometer a year one more report on the other two a jar. The most corrupt a year institutions in Ghana. Almost put the police first, and the office of the president second, and normally the tax officials a third, members of parliament a fourth, and the fifth year judges and the year magistrates. Now, what about people with their opinion say obi to say Ora Godfred Kwabnadi? No say a year in practice no. Speaker no cannot suspend a year parliament without consultation with the sitting president, the executive. Now, ofa a year the Ora Kwabnadi wu Kenya atweme adwene akọ justices a year pega ni ruling bia wo year 2001, and I think in 2001 and 2002 it was between a year Amidu and a year President Kufuor, and it was about a year a year Ura Kufuor Mreno of fast so appointing Kofubi, and Amidu was with a point to say the Kufuor year no ebia wamfa a year mra kwan so, and into kuwie ama Justice Pega can say even though there was separation of powers no separation of powers no and chrese se ba ye no ho se chinchina twan media me ho, and I'm not going to work in par with other powers that be in Ghana. Now for the Godfred Kwabnadi wu Kenya, it means Parliament is acting without the executive. Ebanesa, is it not dangerous for the separation of powers? You know?
Yeah, Dr. Ren, I don't think suspension of parliament you need to involve the president in. Or house, you know.
Because we dissolving parliament, we are suspending a year parliament indefinitely. One will say, is it not similar like somebody sitting somewhere in Kenya? I know the constitution in Kenya is different from our constitution. Our constitution, you cannot dissolve parliament. President cannot dissolve parliament.
Yeah.
Dissolving parliament, be free the speaker of parliament. Or suspending parliament indefinitely, more or less, is like saying I have dissolved parliament without the knowing or agreeing from the executive.
Yes, these are semantics. It depends which word exactly did the speaker use. Okay. Parliament, he can let parliament go on recess, and it's a word that over the years they can go on break.
Yeah.
So you see, just a choice of words. So I told the idea, Parliament is on recess, and his reasons are that they've taken French leave, because indeed say Parliament, you know, to a certain extent somebody should have spoken to the speaker, say for ABC your grievances in here, because your bills cost for Parliament and then as for other party and you register your protest and then you walk out of parliament, then it will be on record, say, for this reason, you know, but in this particular instance, by the time a speaker not walking into the house, you know, now my MPs will be a and then his reasons, I am not justifying what the speaker did.
And yeah, okay, I'm even surprised to say, Afenyo Markins, Markin, I mean, a seasoned lawyer. Our council or moon free parliament. I was thinking, saying, Quebec's okay, my brothers and sisters, whatever the place that we will say, let's go, let young now. Now you the speaker Nebeka. Then if we have any opinion and our BBA, then we'll let our grievances or opinion be heard through a friends and the speaker of parliament. But when the I say my kukuntain be na yembetanase, and later on you wap for each speaker and call it and somebody and better when you had the opportunity at the time.
you see that my position has always Ubakaya Abra ye levy deliberation echoes of parliament. You say NDC MPs are walking out. And I'm a catcher say in parliament, only cowards walk out. Because you don't walk out from parliamentary business. Let it be on record, say we voted against it, but they had the numbers, they won. Leaving the house, doesn't stop people left, to make a decision. So sit there, let it be captured, let it be on record. Say, E11, NDC for near 130, year 2 TI, MPP for year 131, Omotomaye. Let it be on record. But you walking out, cannot change anything. It's a coward's way. Somebody will say it's a way of registering your protest and so forth. There is no better way registering your protest than actually voting against the thing on record, so that it will be captured. Because at the end of the day, it will be written, say, Nipadudo say that 2-4 way, we're not 2 against way. If you don't have the number.
It on Hansard, Nanka okay, you buy, but you buy, and ye stands, send a TND, but at the end of the day, I'm quite farmer, but our, your Mickey, your friend is saying, our voices, no.
Clear. Yeah, because walking out, not change anything. Some mistake in our you're marking, because speaker say, yeah, you are my bedroom. And the walking out, I don't know when you are coming back. And we cannot take, also we cannot take decision. We can transact business, but we cannot take decision. And we can't tell me when you are coming back, because and until say may convince us to say that we are willing to come, and no mum na so and yeah, then it is your friend is an indication of an intent, say, and they are willing to come back. So speaker will have to call parliament back. I agree. But at the time I all making that decision, Dr. Waba Obiya niho stood me and 9 at ho. There is no indication when they are coming back. The following day, when you don't know when people are coming back, and you can't take key decisions. And I think that what he did there at that particular day, now he was right. Because say because now we person we quorum. Now we take key decisions. We have and some MPP side say key business for how to be transacted now. Most of the decision you need 2/3 of parliament, and some you need simple majority. Say nipa no bana say moya deliberation we are all kind of numbers no more honor. There is no way you get a number to do the business and so forth. And so what is the point? For NDC for unquano what do not constitute numbers obedience so that taking decisions. And nipa no kono so nyan kanchiro when they are coming back. And better the best option is to walk out and then say ready, I'm catch me. I back.
Also, one of the things I always say is na me DNDC for who a power parliament, this particular parliament, and they say when the issue of a yes Sao, a yes Sancho Kofi Akpafu, Lolobi, Lekpe Ebayeno, I with my own opinion there, I felt to say the NDC let down the people of Sancho Kofi Akpafu, Lolobi, Lekpe. Because we know so clearly, definitely the NDC would have won.
Yes.
And Kebemo a year the upper hand for them to be in the majority seat of a year Ghana's parliament. And can you imagine say akwa Twaba near see ma bantama phone Twaba? Ye ma a ye menshia phone Twaba. I don't think it will never ever happen in Ghana's history. Say Abeko Twaba. Na a whole bantamas aye say modie mabatu ono de mato presidential but parliamentary ni de emfa ho. Can you imagine what would have happened in Ghana and NDC atna ho? So clearly no, from the onset ni de na ka otumu say na everything was on the right side for the NDC to be a year majority, a year party in parliament, and omudi a year bukata a year near dinner through the system, the judicial system, manipulating it in favor of the MPP. And I think it has never been right. And you see, one of the most cardinal sin in Ghana's history is denying the people of Sancho Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Lekpe. And today, here we are. Anaba Baka
Afeidi. Yes, it's true. That is why I told you from the beginning, I don't sympathize with this parliament. And all the parliaments in a this is the most ineffective, a house full of noise makers and attention seekers. Yeah, kasabibre, so ineffective. And Bagbin, and I one speaker of parliament, and me so much disappointed in him. Because yakoto abana yenya these numbers, you know. People felt that this will be the most effective because of the numbers. But unfortunately, no, because like we said, how dare you say yakoto aba? Now, a day, a night before the election. Now, easy through certain manipulations. I could try constituency a film. I'm on one to about representation. Now, you call parliament. The minority knowing very well, say you rectify that particular thing, it will go in your favor, no? You sit there, approve all the ministers, and then as a for them, government business goes on as normal, without telling them say until this particular injustice is rectified, no government business will go on. I'm telling you, say that making sure that the people get a representation in parliament. But and I'm parliament and the minority no tina say for arms. Speaker no so I'm fan on number 3 now or pay no. The people felt say you guys are not serious. And to be here from day one. The MPP government has been trying to use the judiciary to manipulate happenings inside the parliament because you have shown weakness. And I don't know my catch now. Jemensa said in class some more yeah flexing the muscles. Ya kasa onye si ya onye nyina because onimsa parliament is weak. Rainbow Radio live. Because there was a time this woman was hauled before parliament. Osi onko Osman ne deputy, send the deputy nko. The deputy went there and I want Pamon say my men Kasamra. The very day it took several months and sana my men oko. Meaning so videos now. Yeah. Go back and watch the video, watch the demeanor of the woman inside the house, look at the responses. Again, the NDC minority, a demonstration against Governor of Bank of Ghana say, "Oh, Chasika, Waboka in the history of this country or more kada." They went there. The guy granted an interview. Eka said they were behaving like hooligans. MPs. So what I'm trying to say is, respect are ordinary. You expect Parliament to send call one any hope because almost sacrifice it that original powers no more for whatever goodies or so whatever. Because if the whole constituency can be cut off, just the band said that now we can yeah Kotwaba, John Mahama and president. And I appointed Obi your friend saying EC boss. Now I said Bantoma a night before we try Bantoma from Bantoma for your representation. And think a crow and can them. You think the MPP would have agreed? So why would anybody on his right senses who say that particular injustice should stand? So when you do all these things, people will not take you serious. And in the parliament, you know, Obi free so we can just control them. Oh, because they don't respect you. Afena speaker nearby who also try to flex the muscles and as for but I'm sure that this parliament will go down as the worst one, the weakest link, the most unserious and parliament under the Fourth Republic. ASR parliament way. A house full of noise makers, attention grabbers, they already using TV, so my mom say but in reality, I'm the most disappointed the people. Because how do you explain this to the average mind? Say a whole constituency will have no representation for the whole 4 years. And you sit there, who approve government loans, you approve bills, minister bani a passing, president bani a passing.
Omuni representative parliament or become as a mama say na me manfuni here, woman here A, B, C, D. I mean, can you?
Yes.
Charlie.
Yes, and then Supreme Court.
And then another Dankwe Kufuado, a human rights activist.
Yes. Yes. And then Supreme Court Robert Catcher say 4 weeks to elections, you know. A year agona for mena for and suhum for dear. You be breaching or more fundamental human rights. Say you're more representation in parliament. Look, how unserious the institution of parliament is in this country. Is the reason why I'm on phone take you more serious. No. I am because if we begin to lose trust and respect in these foundational institutions of our democracy, Dr. Ryan, we are heading nowhere.
I mean, the okay is true because we had the Muntaka in 2001, and I agree with him. I say 70% of Ghana's problem, every parliament.
Oh yes, yes, and me the prefix honorable we need to drop it because things in Niama Babraba man for born in as a foreigner doesn't illuminate that particular description at the moment.
And it's just a title, but the way I will Ghana and one fat title now, friend one, no we jam by force, Nadia. Come on, do you?
But you live to justify it.
Yes,
you live to justify it. So if consistently life Abraba Obo Girano pointed to the contrary, to the stance that even within the house, the conduct of some of the members in as for crying sometimes.
When you're sure, say the people are yet two muswaba so mon parliament, with the Mr. Mekau. Don't want to form because they don't even understand the democracy. Because we should parliament. Hey, are these people going to make the laws for us? Because you see, when it comes to law, it's about conscience.
Yeah.
Lord, only the Adrenio. Say, Nipane, I want parliament in no me fast, unless me read and this in cophobia or parliament. I'm 5 people in cophobia or parliament. Say, oh, Christ me, to wait anymore. I need to know what now. One tias ya krasa den tina Sancho Coffee akpafulo lobili pekrano woman parliamentarian ever parliament. Sanko to the parliament nasia. I mean, at least discerning minds Nebeka say no, this is wrong. Let's do something about it. Don't you think say a parliament nankasano criteria no yedi choosing for parliament no krano? Questionable.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan, what's the last? Me no egg the culture say. You cannot go to a country where the leaders are fools and the people are wise. Can never happen. So I'm sure I've answered your question. So yes, let us not get ahead of ourselves. Your parliamentarians and Asabi, it is we the people, because leadership of every country, are reflected the larger thinking of the people. And uhunisa, I just said that. Yes, I know yet here. It's on my be our home, no leader and a winner. And near my more than a dinner, I reflected the societal demands. Because how can you go to UK and say a particular constituency, any representation? It is not parliament that will be forced to act. It is the people that will say no, this particular injustice has to be addressed immediately. And you'll be forced. By her. When was the last time I was on a radio? So, journalists and also be say, and your fair cross, a powerful now before, and what is all become L radio? So that
no woman common tears here. Apart from Yaki can want someone, Professor Azani, Franklin Kujo, I am born who the Rosa have seen it. Omocrat journalists will bring on Pontias.
Additional media, no, what is all be a certain panel or more can I say, Maybe I had for my 30 years already, so young can I am. Ivan. Yes, 30 years for not to become awesome. But Yakasi democracy. These are some of the things that we need to sometimes, it is not about where or party, no loyalty, agent. Because and say a timid di Shane Lulu before. Now said John Mahama be president of China. No, so said 5 constituencies in the Ashanti region or Vito Munya representation. I know the day, dear now Becca. Because if somebody can deny one constituency, another president can deny 10 constituencies. It's the same thing.
So you been a see what from MPP AAD and ADBSia MPP first woman the Omontiasi. Now I ask myself, say MPP no person much less woman kwana sebi bamra woman mwana and I banyansa sebi you.
And me can say no Madam for Professor B. Dim Komo or Vice Chancellor of one of the biggest university of Ghana and not all about law. No say oko other countries are I'm focusing just to expand their horizon. Sebaya out of it, no you bet me the abua build it on mine. But no I'm focusing rather by patapane sabium classism. Enti obeha the entire political system now has been weaponized by the legal regime. Because now UK, how often do people take issues of politics to court now? Because common sense need to prevail. Say you see idea to the highest level, and yeah, idea beyond you legalizing no, and I say you weaponizing no with the legal framework. But every single person be a lawyer, be a person who say because yamra and never young court. And the processes of government and administration and as for no, and everything has come to a halt. And the Ghana and say, and Winyan take a decision with our court. Now, my culture say, unfortunately, so where the nature of your constitution now, it's riddled with a whole lot of ambiguity, clauses of ambiguity to the extent say the only person that is empowered to put interpretation on constitutional provision a judge. Dr. Ren, usia dia be law professor. The other can famra no hu bia no e wadwen kire enko ba bia. A law professor which is just an opinion. Because the only person mandated by law in this country to put interpretation on constitutional provision a judge. Finito. Ya yaka una we lawyer una we hwanyo obia, because when lawyers go to court, just that you've been taught to have a refined understanding about the law. But what we are judge no probably fact, because on what the right to put interpretation on a friend saying, ain't such a dangerous environment now you find yourself. Let me free say we need to review the constitution, and these ambiguous clauses now a woman here another person to interpret, let us clear them and write them in a clearer defining language. You will not give discretionary powers to judges all the time to explain. Because if the constitutional provisions are quite explicit in the face, and sometimes, are understandable, you don't need to give a judge a power for the whole country awaiting the Supreme Court for ruling. We live in a progressive society where no court should be given the power and no judge should be given the power to hold the whole nation hostage. I just the Supreme Court the ruling back. Why? Because we are not ready to amend the constitution. The last time I know about say obi ewo Ghana passport no UK passport allegiance. You can't allegiance and then saying is it where you come from? And is it about citizenship? You see, Sanse Munue adaho from over 30 years in ye nyansa and clarify it in our constitution. Until so we back file na by asem de bia ekoko to ho. Obi ko parliament processes of going to parliament start free. Is it by the time I file nomination? Is it by the time I I'll go ahead? Is it by the time I yato abama? Is it by the time you swore in parliament and I find a start free? You see, all these things are ambiguous. So when you have such ambiguities read in your constitution, then you give a judge that power. Unfortunately, judges now are political judges. So what do you expect them to do? They will put political interpretation. So we will not move forward. So me, Emra, I did a video on YouTube and I make a said the best thing we can do is to all call for massive constitutional retooling, re-engineering. Now, some of the clauses, are outliving the usefulness. Some of the phrases, are not quite clear. And internet always beyond, we need to rely on, yes, you can't live in a country that the Supreme Court will not be interpreting, but you see, it becomes too many. And the provision are quite clear. Like the Nano can say me Article 97, 1G, and as for a quite clear, explicit. We don't need any implicit interpretation from anybody, but people are making it look like a bit ambiguous, and we need interpretation. So adding to a saying review your constitution, young writing in a much clearer format. We will not be giving judges too much discretionary powers to always, no. I think that we can do better. We can do, especially at the time. President Bagbin has decided to pack the court and then go to the Supreme Court. Judges, recent cases here, surprisingly, all of them were appointed within the short period. All of them appointed, and there are people on bench, they qualify. Yes, qualify For instance, my man Doma Hene, for instance, Doma Hene has been on the bench for so many years. The juniors be break Supreme Court, that's what to be ote. Why? Because the Omofri said he's not friendly with government. And then you pursue the Nekwaha or China or your Heno, you toss no Sabi Tisa because or can have and a man for any sort of passing on a Supreme Court and no when you're not passing or because of politics. So at the end of the day, you know, if you give such massive room, discretionary powers to judges to interpret the constitution, that's what we get. So that is why some of us have been calling, say we need to do massive constitutional re-engineering. Even though Supreme Court will be interpreting most of the constitution by any all provisions. And I think, say, you bet me, I move on.
Yo, Abusia, Ugusu, I would hear Rainbow Radio 90.